Hello, this is Kyle Peters, and I recently placed third place in the Substance Designer Contest for October, or I guess fall of 2015 by hosted by Algorithmic and NVIDIA, and I was asked to just kind of explain a few things about my thought process and how things went with the development of this substance. If you want to take a look at it, you can go to the Substance Share site, and it's called Destructible Wall. And it's in the urban category under the materials now. So, you just download it there. It's a pretty small file size. One of the main things I really wanted to focus on was being able to make dynamic materials. This isn't necessarily the most viable thing to do for a video game, but if it was for use in a movie, this would be very, or a short film or something, or I guess exporting flat bitmaps. This could be extremely useful because you could set up a script to give different seeds. Essentially how this works, let me up to full resolution. When you download it, it's only going to be rendering in 256 textures. So if you go over to here into base parameters, absolute, you can change that by increasing the numbers. I'm just going to set to 1024 right now. It can go to 2048, 4096, etc., whatever your computer can handle. I'm just going to keep it 1024 to be fast for recalculating while I record. So the point is, though, you can plug anything you want into this, the base mask. Any black, it's recommended to use a black and white mask, and the white areas will be areas that the plaster is kept, and the black areas it will be knocked away. So you can just make your own masks. So you can have a script or your own substance that generates your masks, as I was saying. Sorry, let me get back to that. And then you can look, it generates very quickly, I think. So you can have it generate those, so if you set them up correctly, it would tile together, and then you could have a never repeating destructible wall for some environment or something. So it would be very good for that. Now with my thought process with it, so what I originally was thinking is, okay, I have to make it possible to show just every material. So it could be just full wallpaper. If I did something like this, take a uniform color, I want, say like this, I want only the wall. So now you have only the wall, or I want no wall. And then in the parameters, double click on the background, let me get my input parameters up, click on this, and I can adjust the insulation amount and all that kind of stuff in here as well. So extremely dynamic. Let me just plug this back into the mask. There we go. So as I was saying, I have to make each of the materials look very good on their own, because you can have just a flat plaster. I actually showed a few of those here, or you can have all wallpaper, or you can just have only pipes and wood, or almost entirely insulation, and all these kinds of things. So the way I divided this, I was like, well, I have to make, instead of trying to make like jury rig them all to fit together and doing a really complicated system that makes they check on each other and make sure they're not having a pipe on top of the plaster, which wouldn't make sense because the pipes are in the walls, I figured I should base it all on a single mask that everything gets information from. So that's essentially what I did. I have the notes up on this is also up here as well. Is the oh no, it's not. I appear to have lost that image. Maybe Algorithmic took it down because they didn't want it up there. Well, I'm sorry. Well, here it is. You can see it here. So I figured I would use I have to use the height map anyway for the tessellation and the normal map. So I would just use it as the mask itself. And based on the different ranges in the height, it would know which material to use. I tried to have a fairly simple concept with it. If you go too complex, things tend to become messy and take too long to calculate, so you gotta keep your stuff as simple as you can. So this is my chart I drew for myself, saying like at the very back, wood, and these are the number ranges for a pixel from 0 to 55, or for color. You can see right here the height, so that's how I would determine what material it is. And then if I go back into substance, right out of here, I also have this mask that I was thinking. This is what I was thinking of making the mask and stuff. So based on this, it knows where there is and is not plaster for generating the height map. So let's start at the very bottom though. Because this is the background, the wood, it doesn't matter. It has no influence because I didn't have to make this change, which was nice. So this just is just generated, and you have some adjustments like how many planks of wood there are and stuff like that. But that doesn't matter because everything else is above it. So that one's fair enough. However, for the insulation, I needed to mask it based on both the planks so that it would seed towards the edge of the planks like it's being tucked in. You can kind of see that here. It kind of gets tucked into the wood. And it's also based on the plaster, where the plaster is and is not. Because around the edge of the plaster is going to be holding in the walls. You can see it right there, so the exposed areas, the insulation is going to fall out first before anyone else. So from the plaster, it takes that map, and you can kind of see it gives you this height map from here. And this is that low pixel would be the 175 is the lowest pixel value, and the highest pixel value is I forget, I think it's 200 or something. I had them all more specifically written down. In order to do this, let me open this up, I use a blend node, and I get, so here we go. So these are the two values. That's the cracks. Sorry, where is my height information? So height's here. Height's here. Here we go. Here we go. So so I ended up changing it from my notes. It looks like it's 150 to 190, and what I'm plugging in is this. This is dependent upon that initial mask, though. Let me just give it a temporary checker one so you can see what's going on. Now, of course, it's going to generate there too. Put that there. There we go. So see now this, if I use this as a height map, that's too much. That's too black and white. It's going to be really stretched out far. So if I use that to blend between the two heights I want, it constrains it. The 150 being the lowest, 190 being the highest, I get this. And now this is an accurate representation of the height I want. Someone asked me to specifically go through how I thought of the cracks. To be completely honest, I didn't truly think of these myself. If you go through Substance Designer and pull up these grunge maps, you pull one in and you can open the reference and look at what they did. I actually looked at this one and I saw this part. And to me I was like, oh hey, that looks like it could be really good cracks if it wasn't so elongated vertically. So I just looked at what they did and saw if I could adjust it. I was like, oh, it's actually just a tile generator blurred and subtracted. So it'll give you these edges. So that's literally what I did, except instead of being so vertical elongated, I made it with squares and, well actually pyramids I think, bricks. And I did the same thing and it gave me this shape. You know, and then I used a safe transform to make it small and blend it with some smaller shapes. So there you go. And then, you know, some general noise mess ups, some levels, and I just kept doing little adjustments to it. So from here, I thought it was too even and perfect depth. So I just used a liquid to blur it out in areas so it was a little more uneven. And then once I was happy with the black and white, I used a bevel to bevel it in and actually make it deep. So this is something I started doing with cracks, because two problems I have with a lot of people's substance cracks is they're very noticeably procedural, and they are very even on the edge. The angle of their slope is very even. So what I mean by this is, even looking at mine, if you look at this, the actual size of the cracks is very even. Like, you can kind of see these shapes, and they're all very similar size. Which is why I put in these small ones, and then the other part is the slope, because a lot of people use a bevel. I do too. It's a fantastic node. The problem with that is, though, that you get a very specific set angle that's unanimous across the entire bit mask you've plugged into it. So to fix this, I use a slope blur and I feed in a inverted beveled version of the bitmap. And you have to think of a slope blur as it pulls your pixels downwards. So it's like you're feeding it a height map, and anywhere that's black is things are going to get pulled downwards into, and anything that's white it's going to get pushed away from. So because the cracks are black now, it's going to pull the edges in towards the crack and give you more of a rounded curve. Let me set this to an absolute value so it's not so pixely. Oh, that's not what I wanted. There we go. Here we go. So you can see this is the straight bevel. Let me just plug it in so you can see the difference. Oops. It's very set, like 45-degree edge, but when I plug it in this one, it's much messier and more rounded, almost like a crack would be. This one's probably easier to see. Just that one. Come on. See, there you go. That one looks much better. It's very obviously procedural to me, and then you plug this in though, and you get a very harsh crack at the bottom, and then it kind of rounds out a little bit more. I just think that looks much nicer and more organic, especially at the higher resolutions when you get up close. That's really how I did my cracks. The third note I'm going to make a note on real quick is optimization to make sure this runs quickly. Let me reset this actually and I'll show you. I spent a lot of time doing optimizations on this thing to try and make it so it would calculate in under 2-3 seconds no matter what you did. Because if it's dynamic, there's no point to it being dynamic if it takes 5 minutes every time you make a change. It might as well be static at that point. I mean, and you just make it look good. So make sure I change this back to relative to parent. Go to the wall. Change this to, no, even at 2K resolution. Put this back up to run preview. It's because I changed it at the same time. Come on. There we go. I can do things like save a preset first. Sorry, 1 second. There we go, because I don't want to lose this preset. I like the way it looks. So I could do things like make more holes in the wallpaper. 1, 2. Okay, so that takes about 3 seconds. It calculates. If I change even the mask itself, though, which makes everything recalculate, it takes about 3 seconds at 2K resolution. That's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. It calculates everything again. So I'm going to take down the wallpaper. Maybe I want more of the wall. Maybe cut out some of that. Maybe I want bigger holes in the wallpaper. Oh, sorry, other direction, it's a negative. So there's going to be less holes, but they're going to be bigger when they do appear. I actually like that. Let's adjust the pipes, inner parts, vertical pipes, really big, fewer big pipes, or lots of little pipes. So, I mean, you can see it adjusts very, very quickly. Let's say default. I was able to do this by, they have a wiki on it, on the efficiency. You can find on their site somewhere. I think you can just Google it. And it's like increasing the processing time of Substance Design or something. I'll post a link below in the description. The main thing I learned though is slopes, blurs, and warps. Warp nodes hurt performance, so if you're going to use them, try and keep the sample size as low as possible. And the second part is you want to keep your resolutions as low as possible as well. If you see this node here, blur, essentially you're going to get the same effect if you take something like a checker. Alright, let's look at a checker and a blur and blend. Let's tell this one to be an absolute value of, let's say 1K. So if I plug this into this, you can see you get this blurred edge here. It blurs the edge when it scales it up from a 256 to 1024. This is very cheap. If I do the same thing, look at that, 0.19, 0.81, and then I have to plug this through blur. But look, they look almost identical. I just have to adjust the blur number slightly, and I think I could get them looking exactly the same. But look at this. This is 0.81 plus 0.82. That's already, I mean, that's more. That's like 4 times this. And it should be, because this is 256, and it looks the same. So if you ever want something, if you can blur it, if you want to blur it, just downscale it and back upscale it, and it's going to be much faster. So I spend a lot of time doing that, like here. Actually, no, not there. Here. This is a 128. It's half the size of the parent. This is a 32 pixel image. I'm putting it into there and blending them together and upscaling them back up, and just being really careful about that stuff. And then when I have things like even this slope blur, that one's pretty intense, but this one's only 8 samples. You didn't need it as much. So you just have to be careful about that kind of stuff too. I guess that's my thinking. I can do a follow-up video if anyone has any more questions. This is kind of just a method and thought process thing. I guess I can go through this one. This is the part that gave me the most frickin' problems, figuring out how to make the paper curls correct. This was pretty terrible to get working. I can just show you a quick one of that. Actually, that would work. And then this is going to be done though. Here we go. This is the paper mask. So paper mask. Plug that in. Absolute. Oop, 1024. Alright, so you plug that in. I just leveled it. I'm doing an invert. So the first thing that goes through my head is I want paper curls. All paper curls are going to be affected by gravity, so they're going to be on the bottom edge of wherever, on the edge of the wallpaper. Bottom edge of the edge. So I did this to get, because black in this instance is the wallpaper itself and white is the holes. So I want to get the bottom edge of the white in this instance. In order to do that, I made this node called getSide. Because I used it so much, I figured I might as well make a tool out of it. It's essentially just a non-uniform blur grayscale with a couple other options like a switch and a histogram and stuff depending on what I need. So, because if you take this, you can control the angle. So it's like, okay, so I can tell it to, maybe, why is this not, oh. I had it doing uneven, so that's right. It needs an intensity, so I'm just going to have it do everything though for the showing of this. If you do pump up the asymmetry and the, well, both of these, no, not both of these, only one of these. What the heck? Oh no, yeah, that's right. Sorry. So you can see it starts to pull it downwards. If I then take that information and do a blend node and subtract it from the original, there we go. You can see this is information, and you're taking away this information, and you're left with this. And this is just a mask showing the bottom area. And then I can do a histogram scan, and now I have a black and white mask of the area below. And that's essentially what this is doing. It's the same thing. Once I have that mask, though, I do a bevel, a very smooth bevel. The problem with this, though, is it's peeling. It's perfectly rounded. It's going to go in and out and back in. I don't want that, so I actually take the normal map and I split up the RGB channels, and I take just the green, which is the the vertical angle normal, or I suppose you could say, and I clamp it out so I'm only getting the normals that are facing upwards, which is going to give me this, which is more of what I want. It's the area of this bevel. It's the area that's only popping outwards. It's a little confusing. It took me a while to figure out. Well, it took me a little while to get this working right. This is just some edgeware stuff, making up chipping into it and things to make it more beat up once I have that information. But I mean, that's really the hard part. Once you get this, it's pretty easy to do the rest of the stuff. This is all just a lot of detailing work, normal maps and stuff. And then I plug into here and get the normals. And I also have some other things like this, but that was the really hard part. So, let's see. Let me just look at the wall again. Oh, so you might be wondering how I was able to make a mask. Wow, I should cover that earlier. How I was able to make a mask by blending height maps. If you take a look in here, there's this node here. Mask. This is a node I made as well. It's a pixel processor. I don't know why this isn't in Substance. There are so many times when I've been like, oh, I wish I could do a blend and take the highest of two values and also get a mask with it, because if you're blending, say, a material or something. So if you don't know, this is what I'm talking about for blending. So if I take this and I tile it a little, and I plug both these in, and I do max, it will take the highest value of either pixel in that spot, so whichever one's brighter. Or you do minimum, it'll do the opposite. You know, but what if now if I wanted a black and white mask to tell me, hey, a white pixel means I took the pixel from the top one, and black means I took the bottom one, or something like that. You can't really do that. You have to use a pixel processor to my knowledge. So I made a pixel processor, and inside here, it's not very complicated, so feel free to use it, and I think I'm pretty happy with it. So first thing is, it says this is just the pixel itself that you're currently working on. This is the first map, this is the second map, and it says, hey, if it's greater, you know, it goes through an if statement and says, hey, do white or do black if it's greater or not, and then also display whether it is or not. You can look through this a little more. I don't want to get super in depth to it because it's a bit simple. Once you work it out, it's you'll kind of get it pretty easily once you start to look into it. Pixel processors may seem like, whoa, what is that at first for non-programmers, but it's not too complicated. I mean, really, it's just a lot of looking through this stuff, but I just wanted to talk about my thought process as I was going through and making this. So there you go. Sorry it's not necessarily the best tutorial, and it's a bit of ranting, but I'm trying to just get this out for people to talk to. The most things you're going to learn from this, I think, are just by seeing how I did certain effects. And there are already so many good tutorials on this program out there. I wasn't trying to compete with them. So, cool. Let me know what you guys think. I might do a follow-up video if there's any more questions people have on specific aspects of this or other things, or one of the other entries I did. I also entered I did two other entries. I did a sci-fi and a fantasy entry too. I was pretty happy with these. So these are both more simple. They're just more detail oriented. I don't think I really used any new things. The cracks on this is just a more advanced version of the cracks of the plaster. You can actually open up this one and look through it. And this is what I'm talking about again. You have those consistent shapes, which I really tried to break up. So this is the shape itself, but I broke it up into the smaller bits and things. So, cool. Alright, thank you, and let me know if you have any questions.